Good evening, dear viewers. It's exactly 6 p.m. Cairo local time. You're tuned into Channel 2 and it's time for Channel 2 News Bulletin. You're in the company of myself, Mibna, along with my dear colleague, Sahar Al-Talawi. Welcome, Sahar.
Thank you, Mibna. Good evening, and we're going to start up with the headlines. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli addresses the COP29, asserts Egypt's integrated national approach to green conversation. Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati visits Beirut, holds press conference with the Lebanese speaker. And the Israeli attacks
Welcome back with the news and details. As the United Nations Climate Change Conference continued its activities in the Azerbaijani capital Baku on Wednesday, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli addressed the conference on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. He expressed Egypt's desire that COP29 would yield fruitful outcomes in light of climate change issues at the world level. More details on this report.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli on Wednesday addressed the UN Climate Conference COP29 on behalf of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. In his speech, Premier Madbouli confirmed that Egypt aims that COP29 would result in fruitful outcomes in light of the climate change issues at the world level. The Prime Minister asserted that Egypt, along with African states, are confronting a number of challenges related to the climate. He noted that Cairo had succeeded during its hosting of COP27 to push forward efforts aimed at implementing many solutions concerning climate issues. Madbouli underscored the significance of COP29 in helping developing countries to close the gap between their climate needs and the global support mobilized for them. The Prime Minister stressed the significance of the UN Climate Conference in providing a vital opportunity to strengthen cooperation mechanisms among nations, achieving sustainability and defining commitments regarding climate change actions. Madbouli outlined Egypt's ambitious climate goals and called for international support to achieve its energy transition, as he detailed the country's efforts to create a favorable environment for renewable energy investment. Accompanied by Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad, Premier Madbouli also attends a number of high-level meetings and roundtables over 2 days.
On the sidelines of the COP29 conference in Baku, Azerbaijani Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli appreciated the roles of NEPAD, Agency for the African Development, meetings with the executive director of the agency. The Prime Minister asserted that Egypt and the current president of NEPAD will continue supporting the agency with increasing finances in order to implement the important infrastructure projects it supervises. And he also added that the work is ongoing to provide the advocate funding by the donor countries to the NEPAD's 10-year plan.
Meanwhile, Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad, whose participation at the Egyptian delegation to COP29 took part at a session dedicated for financing climate plans. In her speech, Fouad reviewed Egypt's efforts to boost climate finances in order to meet developing countries' challenges to meet their obligations. The Environment Minister renewed the call made at COP27 meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh to reform financing policies of international institutions, saying that ensuring and providing quality funds comes ahead of increasing funds.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati held a joint press conference with the Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri at the Beirut International Airport on Wednesday. Minister Abdelati said that he carried out a message support from President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the Lebanese people during the critical time. He reiterated that Egypt's consolidates Lebanon on both political and the humanitarian fronts against any breach to the country's sovereignty. The top diplomat called on Israel to immediately stop its aggression on Lebanon and stressing that Egypt rejects any aggression on the Lebanese lands.
During his Beirut visit, the top diplomat delivered the 4th shipment of Egyptian aid to the Lebanese people. An Egyptian airlift for aid has been launched under the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to offer Lebanon and its people will also sorts of support in facing the Israeli aggression. The new shipment includes 21 tons of foodstuffs and necessary relief and accommodation supplies.
And as a part of his visit to the Lebanese capital, the Foreign Minister Badr Abdel and with the Lebanese Army Commander Joseph Aoun, and they asserted the importance of electing a Lebanese president by the consensus to the end of the post vacancy without foreign interference. And Dr. Badr Abdel asserting Egypt's full backing to Lebanese state institutions, notably its army, hailing its crucial role in the safeguarding Lebanon's stability. The top diplomat also reviewed the communications Egypt is making with the regional and international parties to reach an immediate ceasefire, implement the UN Security Council Resolution 1701, and enable the army to control the southern Lebanon.
At least 6 people were killed and 15 others injured in Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon, allegedly targeting sites of Hezbollah group on Wednesday. The latest Israeli attacks that came more than 7 weeks since Israel went on the offensive against Lebanon leveled half a dozen buildings in the Beirut suburb known as Dahya and killed 6 people in the Armoun village south of the capital. Israel has conducted many of its airstrikes on Dahya at night, but on Tuesday and Wednesday carried out multiple strikes starting in the mid-morning. Tuesday's airstrikes flattened around a dozen buildings in Dahya.
The Israeli attacks killed at least 22 Palestinians across the Gaza Strip on Wednesday, and in the northern Gaza, 8 people were killed in an Israeli strike on a house in western Khan Yunis, while 1 man was killed in an airstrike in Gaza. Rafah, 5 others were killed in 2 separate strikes in the Nusayrat central Gaza Strip, and in northern Gaza, 5 people were killed. Said the men were held for the questioning, while men and children were allowed to continue toward Gaza City, and at least 43,712 people had been killed so far in the Israeli war on Gaza.
Speaking on Wednesday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Israel has accomplished the goals that it set for itself during its war in Gaza, adding that this should be a time to end this war. He added that we also need to make sure we have a plan for what follows, so that if Israel decides to end the war and we find a way to get the hostages out, we also have a clear plan so that Israel can get out of Gaza, and we make sure that Hamas is not going back in. For his part, senior Hamas official Sami Abu Zahri said Blinken's comments showed we are facing one enemy and that the U.S. animus against the Palestinian people is no less than that of the occupation.
And maybe most importantly,
meanwhile, Russia escalated its attacks on Kiev early today, launching waves of drones and missiles in its first combined aerial assault on the capital in more than 70 days. Ukraine's Air Force said its units had down 4 missiles and 37 drones launched by Russia over 8 regions of Ukraine overnight and this morning, and the eyewitnesses said they heard explosions ring out over Kiev and saw dozens of residents seeking shelter in an underground metro station in the center of the capital. Meanwhile, Kiev officials said 1 man was wounded by falling debris from a downed drone and a separate drone attack in the southern Kherson region and killed the 50-year-old man. The attack is the latest in the quick escalating strikes on Ukraine cities, mainly in the south of the country.
U.S. President Joe Biden will host President-elect Donald Trump at the White House today for a meeting designed to demonstrate a smooth transition between administrations, despite Trump's team not yet having signed documents to start the handover process. Biden will welcome the future U.S. president into the Oval Office, a traditional courtesy by outgoing presidents that Trump did not extend it to Biden in 2020 when he won. Trump's trip to Washington is expected to include a meeting with the Republican lawmakers and House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson ahead of Biden's meeting.
The Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development, who doubles as the Minister of Industry and the Transport, Kamel Al-Wazir, today asserted the deeply rooted ties between Egypt and Jordan and Iraq. He pointed out to the Arab Bridge Maritime Company being the successful model of the Arab Partnership, which plays an important role in boosting intra-trade and increasing the volume of the Arab-Asian trade exchange. The minister made these remarks as chaired the third meeting of the AEB Maritime Co. on the sidelines of the executive meetings of the Arab transport ministers in the attendance of the Jordan and the Iraqi transport ministers.
Egypt's bourse closed lower today, pushed by profit-garnering processes, with its capital losing 7 billion Egyptian pounds to reach 2.2 trillion pounds at the end of the transactions. The benchmark index EGX 30 dipped 0.5% above the 31,430-point mark. The equal-weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 fell 0.3% and 0.5% respectively.
Moving to the sports, the Egypt's national football team left Cairo today, heading for the Praia, the capital of Cape Verde, in the preparation for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers, ahead of the departure of the record 7-time African champions. Had an afternoon warm-up at the Air Defence Stadium ahead of the fifth round of the Group C away qualifier against Cape Verde next Friday. The Pharaohs top Group C on the 12 points and sealed the qualifications for the African competition in the latest qualifying round. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap-up of Channel 2 News Bulletin. You were in the company of myself, Mirna Ghaznawi, along with my dear colleague, Sahar Talawi.
Thank you, Mirna.
Thank you, dear viewers, for watching.